Hello, everybody. I'm Bobby Munson, and with me, as always, it's Astro Bizarro. This is Killer Cuts, and we're bringing you our drop review. Who did it? Who's behind it? And all that wonderful things. Does this thriller stack up? You're about to find out. It's Killer Cuts, Chapter 15. That's right. Killer Cuts Chapter 15, and we're bringing you our Drop movie review. Drop, the movie starring Megan Fahey, I hope I said that right, and Brandon Sklenar, directed by Christopher Landon and written by Jillian Jacobs and Chris Rhodes, Rhodey. Sorry, I probably wrote down Chris Roach. Sorry, I believe is what it was. So I apologize for getting all that wrong right in the first opening bits. But yes, I'm excited to talk about this one. Christopher Landon, I know you and I have talked many times about the uniqueness of his direction and the fact that he was supposed to be attached to be the Scream 7 director until all hell broke loose and he had to walk. This is the project that he chose to take right after it. And this one, a lot of modern day technology being utilized throughout the movie Drop. So as the premise would show you, this is essentially a movie about a woman who, after the death of her husband, finally getting back into the dating game, going on her first date, meeting a guy that she's been talking to online for a while now, for the very first time at this restaurant. As she gets there, she starts to get some interesting drop messages to her phone, a little bit cryptic at the very beginning, but as the movie begins to unfold, we start to see more and more about what the messages are, what is wanted by the people behind this, and why they are doing this in the first place. Who could have done it? There's a lot of people along the path that she meets, from random guys in this place to the bartender at the bar to the waiter at their table and everybody in between. It was an interesting whodunit, one that I, interestingly enough, picked out the person quickly. I didn't have the why. I just kind of felt like that's the person. It ended up being who it was. I didn't have the figuring out of why they were doing it, though, and the full story. That will come in a little bit. But I know we were talking about before we went live here to record. I want to know, again, your thoughts on how this one opened up and your thoughts on, was it easy to figure out and know who was behind this? And did you have suspicions of anyone in particular?
Well, for this one, I have previously seen Brandon on It Ends With Us because I'm a bookworm, so that I had to watch the adaptation of the movie. But Megan, I knew her from the Bold Type, so I was not used to seeing them in this environment, so that was very interesting for me, watching them for the first time doing horror. This one, though, I had seen the trailer a few times, so I was very interested since I first saw the trailer. The early drop, and yes, I did that on purpose. And then I was very interested in watching it. I feel like it was a very clever use of technology with the whole like airdrop thing and airdropping the pictures to her. But as the movie started, in my mind, I like to almost kind of like make a list of suspects, and I always think of like the people that she encounters throughout the movie as suspects until I take them off the list. So that was my mindset going into it. I kept thinking of people here and there, like the hostess at the front, the girl at the bar, and the waiter too. Those are people that I took off her date as well. At first, I kept thinking like maybe it was him because I feel like they could have gone that scream route of like it's the boyfriend, it's the love interest somehow. But little by little, I was like, yeah, I can take him off the list for sure. There's another guy that she encounters throughout the movie. I forgot his name that she mentioned, but once she confronted him, I was like, that's definitely not him. But I still couldn't think of who it could have been. And I felt like I was more like torn in like in the part of like I didn't have the person that you had on your list on my list, but I didn't sketch him off either, if that makes sense. So I feel like it was very clever. I liked the movie, but I feel like the part that really felt flat for me was the motive behind it. Because I was more expecting it to be like connected to her and her life, and that would have been like, oh, she did this, so this person's coming for revenge kind of storyline. And at the end, it just didn't make sense as to why she was picked. Because I mean, based on that, it could have been anybody, to be honest, if you think about it that way. So I feel like it made sense and it didn't at the same time for the ending.
Yeah, and I mean the way to defend it. I mean, the only real way to defend it is that she seems to have been selected because of her past and what might be known about her past. To give a little backstory to
Mm.
that, we do find out as this progresses that she was responsible for killing her abusive ex husband. She was never charged or convicted with his murder, but somehow the person who has selected her is very familiar with her case and what is going on because it does come up in the drops. Well, the way we can start to exclude the love interest is because then the drops become a need for something to be done. And the first need is to get the
Mhm.
SD card out of the camera that her date has. So she has to think of a creative way for him to leave the table in order for her to get to the SD card, to pull the SD card and get rid of it. She is then told to smash it, which she does while she's in the washroom. And then the next stage is she is given a vial of poison that she is told to put into her date's drink to kill him. She says she cannot kill someone, and that's when the reply comes in. You've killed someone before. Make it happen again. At the same time, she's also kind of got a hostage situation because they have proven that not only are they at her house through the home cameras with a masked person there, but that her sister and her son are there as well too. So everything she does, she has to consider the life of her sister and her son versus the life of this guy who she's been talking to through the internet for a while that she's on a first date with. And I like that aspect of it, of pulling somebody into that like lose lose
Mhm.
situation because what do you do? It's she doesn't want to take an innocent man's life, but she also doesn't want the life of her son and sister taken at the same time. So it leaves her in a real predicament here. So there is a bit of a defense to be made there. As we find out, it so happens on the SD card happens to be photos that would incriminate the mayor of the city, proving that he is a criminal. So this becomes a very political scandal in this movie as they're trying to eliminate this. And the reason that they're trying to do it in a public setting as well, too, we find out is because of the cameras. Everything that's shown, including the idea of her putting the poison into the drink, would get noticed on the camera so that she could actually end up taking the full blame for the murder of this individual and it would never come back to be connected to the mayor. So I do think that while there are loopholes to be had throughout Drop, I do feel that they also tried to fill that void with a little bit of explanation that tries to make sense of
Mhm.
it and didn't just immediately go, well, don't worry about it. It's a movie. Have fun. They did do their best at trying to give us at least some
Mhm.
depth of explanation to the whole thing. And I enjoyed that.
Yeah, I kept thinking more of like once it is revealed that the older guy, which I'm trying to remember his name, Richard, it says, but when it's revealed that he's the one behind it, I understand about the part about the politician being involved and everything like that, but it almost felt like the attack on the family aspect, so like the way that there's somebody in her house ready to kill her son and her sister. That felt a little bit more personal in that aspect of it. So I was expecting it to be a person from her past somehow trying to get revenge for because her husband got killed. So I was thinking of like there has to be a link between like what the person killed that's trying to do the killing and what happened to her before. So in my mindset, I was thinking this is some kind of revenge plot at the same time, but once like the person is unmasked and it's revealed and she ends up killing the person to save her son and her sister, I was like, it's not somebody that we recognize. So at the same time, that moment is the one that felt like underwhelming for me. I feel like it would have been not, I don't want to say better, but it would have been different if it was somebody we would have seen before, maybe in a flashback somehow, that maybe perhaps was related to her husband of like, I got into this because I wanted to get revenge for you killing my, my family member, because it could have been anybody at that point. But I feel like the best part of this was like the whole middle section to me, because it's so thrilling seeing her, the way she's trying to find a way out and almost delaying what the person's asking her to do, because she's trying to find that way to, like you said, come in this lose-lose situation and try to find a solution that would solve not only having her family safe, but saving this person that is almost like a stranger. I was saying that aspect of it because it's somebody that she's just dating. But the fact that she goes from having a stranger on one side and her family on the other one, but she's trying to find that balance to save them, all three of them. I think that's the part that's almost very thrilling and it keeps you at the edge of your seat. It's like, how is she gonna do it next? And thinking of like, oh, she's thinking of like changing tables, and the person's like, don't change tables because I'm doing this, and this is the plan behind this, and don't do this because this is gonna happen. And seeing how I think another factor that I really enjoy just seeing that her actions have consequences right there and then. So whatever she chooses to do, it happens right there, and it tells you why that should have happened, and something else happens, and it keeps going like a domino effect in that sort of way in the movie. And I feel like that was very thrilling to watch.
Yeah, it really was. I think my cat agrees with you. And then it gets interesting there from there because there is the scene where she finally goes to confront Richard about everything when she realizes that he's behind it. And then she pulls the trick on Richard here because he's trying to force her to put the poison into a shot to give to her date, who is going to be approaching the table. She then hands said shot that is believed to be poisoned over to her date, and they go and take the shot and nothing happens right away. And that's when she explains to Richard that he's been eating the poison the whole time because she snuck it into his dessert. He then goes to attempt to shoot her, but she is saved by her date at that point in time. And then I gotta ask as well too, because the scene where things start to fall out the window in this upper level fancy
Mhm,
restaurant and stuff like that. How are you with heights in theaters and watching as things are falling from
mhm,
that kind of height? Like, are
mhm,
I know a lot of people go into these and that bothers them. A height in a movie will really get to them. I know for me, it doesn't. Like, I've never been really afraid of heights, but you can definitely get that sensation of that feeling of
mhm,
that free fall and stuff like that. And they're showing somebody go out and things go out, and that free fall feeling, that sinking feeling that you get inside of you when it happens. I thought it was excellently crafted. I don't know if it was necessary in this movie
mhm,
to have that entire scene. I think they did it
yeah,
for more of a thrilling part to the movie more than
yeah.
anything. I feel that that's why it was inserted. Don't know if it was necessary, but effectively looked really cool at the same time.
I'm like one of those people, I'm not afraid of heights, but then I think I'm like, if that would have happened to me, and let's say the window broke and the whole air was coming inside the restaurant and I was falling down, like I would be hysterical if I was the one hanging from the building like that. Like I can
Yeah.
imagine myself in her shoes, and now like now I'll be terrified of heights if that were to happen. I did think about not only that because there's a restaurant like that in the US, but there's also one that they have, it's not closed, but it made me think of that one in this particular scene, the one that they have the restaurant and the table and everything set up for like multiple people, and it's very long, and then they raise you up so you're eating basically while you're in the air. And then I seen people like thinking of like I don't want to look down while I'm eating, and asking people asking what happens if you drop like your food, what happens if you drop your utensils and your feet are dangling. It's like I don't know if I'll be able to do anything like that in my life, but it just reminded me of that restaurant when I saw this particular scene. But I like the fact that in this scene that we're talking about here too, the fact that her date is the one that saves her, even though he's hurt at the same time. I was like, I thought that was pretty cool at the same time here, and thinking about he doesn't know her, but he still went to lengths to protect her, just as she went to her lengths to protect him throughout this whole ordeal throughout the night.
Yeah, the love interest actually comes through for a change in a horror movie, which is nice to see. They end up having to go back to the house to make sure to save her sister and her son. They then end the movie at the hospital where a drop comes through to her phone once again while she's in there seeing to him. And then all of a sudden her sister pokes her head in and has a bit of a laugh about it. I'm like, that's the cruelest thing that a person could
Mm,
potentially do. But at the same time, I had a good chuckle with it. I'm like, all right, you can have your laugh, it's fine. But I mean, if
mhm,
somebody legitimately went through this and then the reaction was for your sister to go and airdrop you a message to make it seem like
mhm,
it's
mhm,
happening all over again is kind of rude in a sense. It also brings up the next question I'm going to ask, and I asked this on the last show that we did:
mhm,
sequel or no
yeah,
sequel? Is Drop a
mhm.
type of movie that gets a sequel, despite how good it does theatrically or on demand? Does this need or get a sequel? Do you keep the same characters, or would you go a complete different direction if it did go with a sequel?
I really thought this particular scene was a setup for a sequel because I kept
Mm.
thinking, oh no, she's gonna get into it, something else happened with somebody else. Because at this point, Richard's probably dead to begin with because of the poison, and she killed the other guy in her house. So in my mind, I was thinking, oh no, this is gonna happen again to her with somebody else. I was like, that is not fair. Poor girl just went through this whole thing, and it's not even what, probably 24 hours later she's going through it again. That's not fair. So in my mind, I kept thinking this is the setup for that sequel. But this is one of those that I would just leave it alone, to be honest. I don't know how, unlike Companion, I don't know how you can explore a sequel to it. I feel like they did what they could do with this movie. They explained what they could, and they basically closed every single chapter in this whole movie when it was done. So I don't know how they could do a sequel if they decide to do one though. Um, but I feel like at the same time, this is creative in the way that when we talk about there's a particular scene that she's like, oh, I can talk about what like basically the drops that you sent me. And he goes, well, they're on your phone saved, but they're not on mine. So if anything happens, they can see that it was you, but not me. Like I'm not involved in this. And I thought that was very interesting to begin with. So I'm like, when you have a picture of the airdrop, you have to save it on your phone before you airdrop it to somebody else. But then he deleted them, I'm guessing. Um, but I feel like it was a clever way of including a different with technology. It wasn't just the usual text messages. It wasn't the usual like phone calls or anything like that, or even like usual FaceTimes or video chats. So I really like that the fact that they used a different phone feature this time around for a movie like this one. I feel like that was very creative. But I kept thinking about it after the ending. It's like they wouldn't do a sequel to this, would they? I feel like this is one of those like I wouldn't know what else to explore with it.
Yeah, much like movies like Speed and Red Eye, the kind of things that don't need a sequel. In fact, Speed got one,
Mm,
didn't need one.
mm,
Red Eye, another one that kind of never needed a sequel. They kind of standalone thrillers that I think work in so many ways. The only way I think you could work a sequel out of this is completely different people, completely different situation. But then does the airdropping technology kind of become a little outdated by that time? And are you just
mhm,
forcing another movie in this trying to make a franchise and then you change the technology up? I feel like
mhm,
there will be other
mhm,
movies that come along and already have come along that will advance the technology race. So I don't feel that Drop needs or is necessarily going to get a sequel. And I think it should be left alone. Should mention 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. Critics seem to enjoy it for the most part. 65 out of 100 on Metacritic for Drop as well too, which is pretty reasonable. It now is, I believe, heading to video on demand for rental right away, if not this week, if I'm not mistaken. So, or not this, sorry, as of this recording, the week of this recording, by the time this drops, pun intended, you'll be able to catch this on video on demand and pay to catch this one. Highly recommend it. I think it was a fun little thriller movie. It's not going to be top 10 of the year or anything like that. We still got a long
mhm.
ways to go, but it's still going to be one that I will definitely have to check out again sometime because I did enjoy it and might even have to get a copy of it when it drops. I'm just going to keep dropping all those puns over and over again. But how about I go over to you for some final thoughts, Astrid, before we say our goodbyes?
Yeah, I feel like this is one of those like I'm the kind of person that if I enjoy the movie, I will definitely try to grab a physical copy of it. Especially I like having my collection of like horror thriller movies that I enjoy. And this is definitely one of them that I will hopefully purchase sometime soon and watch it again. I really enjoyed it. I was very entertained with that and the concept of it being so different. Like I said, it's like the casting was another reason why I decided to watch it as well. I think they did very well with them. It was very clever how Megan's character, Violet, tries to find different ways to get out of this and still isn't able to into the ending. But I like having her as that kind of person that didn't give up until the end and she got to be able to protect everybody. And overall, I feel like it was really well done and the pacing was really well done as well. And the setup was very different, of course, too. So I feel like it did very well of being something very unique and different concept. I'll definitely recommend it for anybody that thinks about like watching something like this that's thrilling of like that kind of whodunit that will keep you at the edge of your seat.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd probably say I'm somewhere in between Rotten Tomatoes and Metacritic, somewhere in the 70 to 75% range, I would think would be a fair assessment of Drop itself. The acting was good, the storyline reasonable, and overall a fun time at the movies. So definitely check out a Drop. Both by our recommendations. Astrid, why don't you let everybody know outside of Killer Cuts, what kind of stuff do you got going on and where can people reach out to you?
You can find me on Tuesdays doing Taking Over with my partner Olet as we talk about all about NXT, especially now post Get and Deliver and probably with the call ups and the draft coming up soon. So that will be very interesting moving forward. For me, you can find me on my Twitter, Blue Skies, Astrid Pizarro, and my Instagram and threads, Astrid Pizarro20. And if you're here, you're most likely watching on my YouTube channel. So if you haven't yet, please subscribe and hit that bell to be notified when I upload or go live and hit the like on the video as well.
Wonderful stuff. As for myself, Bobby Munson, you can catch me on the X at Real Bobby Munson, Instagram and Threads, Video Bros SK, Twitch, I'm at Video Bro _ Bobby Munson, and Blue Sky, it is Bobby Munson. As always, Thursday nights with Papa Smokes, you can catch me doing Ring Respect Radio, talking independent wrestling, history of pro wrestling, fun and interactive games for you. Saturday afternoons, Papa Smokes and I call all the action at Prairie Pro Wrestling over on YouTube, a new match every single Saturday for y'all. And on Sundays, 11 a.m. Eastern Time, live here on OLE, I've got Point of View, where we talk about the week in sports, other various things like movies reviews and music reviews here on the channel. That channel, OLE Podcast. Check out OLE Podcast across all social media, including YouTube and Twitch. Our local establishment, you want to go ahead and give us a thumbs up, a subscribe, turn on that notification bell so you know when we have new material coming out here, and leave us a comment. Let us know what your thoughts were on a drop, what percentage you would give this one, and also what do you recommend for an upcoming edition of Killer Cuts. Also get your comments, and you might be lucky enough to get your stuff read on one of our upcoming shows. That's going to be it for us on this episode of Killer Cuts. Go check out Drop, now available video on demand. We will see you at the next chapter. Take care, everybody.